here to discuss third test match. It must another test match that has just ended in 3 days. So is that some kind of a trend, or are we following some kind of trend, or is it too much of focus on the pitch even now?
I think you will get these results now and then. I think Rohit Sharma made it very clear in the post-match press conference today that because of the WTC points on offer, I think Vikram Rathod also spoke about that because of the WTC points on offer and spin traditionally being India's real strong point, they will continue to play on pitches like this. You can probably say yes that in indoor they took it to extreme, and so that's why this ended at a time. But you will see more and more tests ending in the third or the fourth day. Rohit also made the point that the South Africa West Indies test finished inside 3 days. So you will, yes, I mean, in conclusion, you will see more and more tests finishing in 3 days.
Yeah, coming back to the test match, do you think India lost out in the first session itself? I mean, was there some kind of a panic in the batting, seeing so much of turn on the wicket?
I really think that they sort of panicked. I think they kind of thought that this was doing a touch too much than they expected. So they kind of figured out that the best way to put was to put pressure back on the Australian spinners. And when they lost those 3-4 early wickets, I think wickets kind of fell asleep as they tend to do in these conditions. But yes, they did lose the test in that session itself. Saying that, they did manage to collapse the Australians on day two. Where I think they really let themselves down in this test match, particularly was of in the third session yesterday. Yes, they could extended that lead by say another 56 on this wicket. Anything could have happened. They did lose the test match in the first session itself. I don't think. I mean, once you get bowled out for 105, 110, there is no chance of you getting back into the game on.
That's definitely true. So anything above 100 would have been difficult for them psychologically as well.
Yeah. And this morning also, the first, I think, 10 overs saw Australia make about 12 for 1. There was a slight issue with the ball. They had to change the ball, and once they changed the ball, things stopped, and Australia kind of countered and finished the match in the next 7-8 overs.
Yeah, and I've also what we had noticed during the course of the test match and even during the series, the batsmen are, you know, like for example, Pujara, he has applied himself and played a little longer innings, but most of them are trying to, score more as much as possible before getting out. Instead of preserving wicket, they're trying to make more runs. And I think Rohit Sharma also indicated that yesterday when Pujara was playing slowly. Was there some kind of, is that some kind of thing that the teams are employing right now?
I mean, it's interesting you asked
Making
that.
more runs than preserving the wicket.
It's interesting you asked that. When England were here in 2021, the first test in Chennai when they made all those mountain of runs, 550 or something, Ben Stokes and he made 80 by just sweeping, trying to hit the spinners. His logic was that when you're playing on wickets like this, you're always going to get a ball that has your number on it. So instead of, I mean, wicket preservation is good, but 10 of 100 or 10 of 150 is not going to do any good because ultimately you have to begin scoring runs at some stage. And when you focus only on wicket preservation, what could happen is that there could be a ball that follows and that could dismiss you with next to nothing on the scoreboard. I think that's the logic that more and more batters are using these days. I mean, it could be right, it could be wrong. I mean, Pujara, you did see yesterday that he could apply himself, and he did put some kind of pressure back onto the Australian bowlers.
The batting for Australia and Pujara for India, what others? Both Raja and Pujara, if you can on this kind of conditions?
So Australia had lots of luck in this match. Luck is one of those underrated concepts that we don't really talk about enough. Australia had mountains and mountains of luck in this match. Even in the first innings, Labuschagne was bowled off a no ball when he was, I think, 5 or 10, and then he was dropped twice. I think he and Smith were dropped twice. They did not take a review where it was shown that Labuschagne was LBW. So you never discount luck. Again, Pujara was dropped when he was in 20. Now, coming to the aspect of what they actually did, that kind of put the bowlers off their game. First, the Australians. The Indian spinners were a touch too full, because what was happening was, when the Indian spinners were bowling on a good length area, the ball was turning miles and comfortably missing the outside edge. So on these kind of wickets, the Indian spinners figured that they would have to bowl a touch fuller. When they went the touch fuller, the Australians were able to take them for singles. This is what Usman Khawaja did really, really well in the first innings. Coming to Pujara, Pujara is one of those players who has a really outstanding game against spin bowling to begin with. He uses his feet. He can rock back and cut spinners. He has different varieties in his spin technique that some of the other Indian batters lack. So he's already better in that aspect. What he did yesterday, though, when you compare to some of the other innings that he's played in the recent past, he's had this tendency of coming forward and keeping the bat and pad together, hiding the bat behind the pad, allowing the ball to hit the pad first. In the DRS era, that is suicidal. So yesterday he kind of came forward and allowed the bat to hit the ball rather than allowing the ball access to the pad. He also flicked really well. That's one of the things that India have done really, really well in this series. Instead of going for the sweeps, they have tended to flick. They have tended to hit straight. They have tended to hit lofted shots above the bowler. That's what he did really, really well yesterday.
So, is it some kind of a? I mean, what we have also noticed during the course of the series is that India were reliant on the lower order to score. I mean, this time the lower order could not score, but in the previous two test matches, they were the ones who were scoring. So, I mean, how much impact do the lower order batting has in the context of the game?
Actually, forget context of the game or the context of the series. In the last 2 years, Indian lower order is the one that's making all the runs. Rishabh Pant, Steve Smith, congrats. Steve Smith basically said Akshar Patel is having a tremendous series with the bat. I don't think they have dismissed him. Maybe they've dismissed him once across 6 innings. So Rishabh Pant, Akshar Patel, Ravindra Jadeja has developed into a really good batter.
So going forward, what kind of wicket are we looking at in Ahmedabad?
I believe that India wanted an extremely turning track in Indore so as to wrap the match in 3 days. I mean, obviously the match finished in 3 days. It's just that the result was not to their liking. I think you will see a similar wicket in Ahmedabad where the ball will turn from the first session. I think Rohit, the big news from today is that Rohit and the Indian team management will continue to play on turning tracks. Is that the right thing or the wrong thing? You would argue that, considering they have lost 3 of their last 46 matches in Indian conditions, that's the right way to go about it. They have been extremely successful. They will have the odd losses like today. Will it come back to bite them? But they will have to live with it. But I strongly believe that that is a similar play that will be waiting for us in Ahmedabad as well.
So your last few words on this match and going forward, and a little bit on the WTC. Where do we stand? Like India stand right now?
I mean, honestly, I don't see Sri Lanka beating New Zealand in New Zealand. Sri Lanka play a 2-match series in New Zealand. If Sri Lanka win both matches, they will play Australia in the final, provided India do not beat Australia in Ahmedabad. If India beat Australia in Ahmedabad, it will be an India-Australia final at the Oval beginning June 7th, around June 7th. Coming back to the Indore test, I would say that it was a missed opportunity for India. Especially after winning the toss, if they had just applied themselves that bit much got to 150 or 175, you would have probably looked at a completely different result, and they would have got a desire of playing a green top in Ahmedabad to see the permutations and combinations of how they stand going into a test at the Oval. Now they don't have that luxury. But I mean, apart from that, I think we should avoid any kind of knee-jerk reactions. It's their first loss in India, I think, in 2 years. It's their second loss since 2017. Last decade, they have lost 3 Test matches. I don't think you will have any side with such a awesome home record. I mean, I think we're allowed to
Thank,
criticize the kind of pitches that we're allowed to criticize the kind of pitches these guys play on, but these are the kind of pitches that has given them all these wins. So you have to kind of balance it out.
thank you so much for your insight. We'll catch up before the next game. Thank you so much.
Okay.